Genius boy defends his aunt in court and humiliates millionaire lawyer with simple words. The tension in the courtroom was almost suffocating as Margaret Johnson felt her hands tremble for the first time in decades. At 52, she never imagined she would be there, fighting to keep the only thing she had left from her family. Ethan adjusted his glasses and stared intently at the lawyer across the table. Dr. Richard Parker, one of the most renowned and expensive attorneys in New York City, had just filed a petition that could take everything from his Aunt Margaret. The 15-year-old boy knew that moment would change their lives forever. "Dr. Parker," said Ethan, his firm voice contrasting with his youthful appearance, "do you really believe you can fool everyone in this room with these documents?" The millionaire lawyer laughed scornfully, adjusting his Italian silk tie. "Kid, you should be in school playing with your classmates, not here trying to play lawyer. Let the adults handle serious matters." Ethan didn't flinch. Since he was little, he had always been different from other children. While others played in the yard, he was in the library devouring law books he found on his late Uncle Oliver's shelf. His ability to absorb and understand complex information had even impressed his teachers at the public school where he studied. Margaret placed a hand on her nephew's shoulder, trying to hide her nervousness. She had raised Ethan since he was 7 when he lost his parents in an accident. Now, 8 years later, he was the one trying to save her. "Ethan, maybe we should let Dr. Sanders speak," she whispered, referring to the public defender who had been assigned to the case. "No, Aunt. Do you trust me?" asked Ethan, his eyes shining through his glasses. Margaret nodded, even without fully understanding what her nephew intended to do. She knew Ethan was special, but facing Dr. Richard Parker was something even experienced lawyers would hesitate to do. The reason they were there was a dispute that had started 3 months earlier. Charles Johnson, Margaret's older brother, had returned to Yonkers after 20 years living abroad. He claimed the house where Margaret lived with Ethan, alleging he had the right to the inheritance left by their parents. The property wasn't large or luxurious, but it meant everything to Margaret and Ethan. It was a simple 3-bedroom house on a quiet street with a small garden that Margaret tended with care. For them, it was much more than a property. It was the home where they built their family. Dr. Parker opened his leather briefcase and pulled out a stack of papers organized in clear folders. "Your Honor," he said, addressing the judge, "my client, Mr. Charles Johnson, has all the necessary documents to prove his right to the property in question. As the eldest son, and considering that his sister never contributed financially to the property's maintenance, we request the restoration of possession." Ethan watched every movement of the lawyer, every facial expression, every calculated gesture. He had spent the last few weeks studying not only the laws related to the case, but also Dr. Parker's professional background. He knew the man was known for his arrogance and for underestimating opponents he considered inferior. "Furthermore," continued Dr. Parker with a confident smile, "we have witnesses who confirm that Mr. Charles always intended to return to the United States and claim his rights. His temporary absence does not invalidate his status as the legitimate heir." The judge, Judge Frank Thompson, a man with graying hair and a serious expression, flipped through the documents presented. "Does the defense wish to respond?" he asked. Ethan stood up before the public defender could answer. "I'd like to speak, Your Honor, Dr." Parker couldn't hide his laughter. "Your Honor, with all due respect, but this boy has no legal qualification to—" "One moment," interrupted the judge, raising his hand. "The young man is a direct relative of the defendant and has the right to speak. Please continue." Ethan took a deep breath. This was his chance. All those nights studying civil law codes, all the hours spent researching case law at the public library, everything came down to this moment. "Your Honor, I'd like to ask Mr. Charles Johnson some questions, if possible." Charles, a 48-year-old man in expensive suits with an air of superiority, nodded arrogantly. "Ask away, kid. I have nothing to hide." "You stated that you always intended to return to the United States and claim your rights to the house, correct?" "Exactly. It was always my plan." Ethan walked to the table where the documents were, moving with a confidence that impressed everyone in the room. "Then why in 2018 did you sign a document renouncing any rights to properties in the United States to obtain tax benefits in the country where you lived?" The silence in the room was deafening. Dr. Parker stood up quickly. Objection. Where is this information coming from? There's nothing in the case files about... Oh, but there is, said Ethan, pulling a paper from a folder he had brought. This document is registered at the Brazilian consulate in London. It's public and can be verified by anyone. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Charles paled. He had indeed signed that document years ago, thinking he would never need to return to the United States. At the time, the renunciation had given him significant advantages for his business abroad. This is a misunderstanding, stammered Charles. I can explain. Please explain, said Ethan, maintaining his respectful but firm tone. How can someone who officially renounced rights to U.S. properties now claim those same rights? Dr. Parker tried to recover. Your Honor, this document may have been signed under coercion or... Coercion? Ethan interrupted him. Dr. Parker, are you suggesting that the Brazilian consulate forced your client to sign a document? That would be a very serious accusation against an official institution. The lawyer realized he had made a mistake. His cheeks turned red with embarrassment. Ethan continued, now addressing the judge directly. Your Honor, there's another important point. Dr. Parker mentioned that my aunt never contributed financially to the maintenance of the property. I'd like to present these receipts. He placed an organized stack of payment proofs on the table. Here are all the receipts for property tax, water, electricity, telephone and renovations done to the house over the past 20 years. All in my aunt's name, Margaret Johnson. Furthermore, I have here the proof that she completely paid off the house financing in 2019 with her own funds. Margaret looked at her nephew in surprise. She knew Ethan had asked her to keep all important papers, but she hadn't imagined he had organized everything so meticulously. One more thing, continued Ethan. During these 20 years of Mr. Charles's absence, my aunt not only maintained the property, but also paid all the back taxes that were in my grandfather's name. If it weren't for her, the house would have been auctioned by the city in 2008. Dr. Parker was visibly irritated. His usual intimidation tactics weren't working with this boy, and his arguments were being systematically dismantled. Your Honor, he said, trying to regain control, regardless of these technical details, the law is clear about inheritance rights. The law is indeed clear, interrupted Ethan, but you seem to have forgotten Article 13228 of the Civil Code, which deals with the social function of property, and also Article 13238 about extraordinary adverse possession. The judge raised his eyebrows, impressed with the teenager's legal knowledge. Ethan continued, My aunt has lived in this house continuously, peacefully, and openly for 22 years. She invested her own money in maintaining and improving the property, treating it as her own. According to the law, this constitutes possession with intent to own for a period longer than required for adverse possession. Dr. Parker tried to object, but Ethan wasn't finished. Moreover, Dr. Parker forgot to mention that your client has a significant debt with the IRS. Am I correct, Mr. Charles? Charles shifted uncomfortably in his chair. This information shouldn't be public. How do you know that? He asked nervously. The debt is recorded with the appropriate authorities, Ethan replied calmly, and coincidentally the amount of the debt is very close to the market value of the house you're trying to take from my aunt. The revelation caused a murmur in the room. It became clear that Charles wasn't interested in the house for sentimental value, but rather as a way to settle his debts. Dr. Parker realized he was losing control of the situation. His strategy of presenting an apparently simple case was becoming complicated, thanks to that boy's meticulous preparation. Your Honor, he said, trying one last move, I request time to reorganize our presentation. There are matters that need to be clarified. That won't be necessary, said the judge, flipping through the documents presented by Ethan. The arguments presented by the defense are solid and well-founded. The documentation proves not only the defendant's continuous and good-faith possession of the property, but also the plaintiff's express waiver of rights to properties in the United States. Ethan felt immense relief, but maintained his composure. He knew it wasn't over yet. The judge continued, Furthermore, it's evident that the defendant invested her own resources in maintaining and improving the property for over 2 decades, characterizing qualified possession. On the other hand, the plaintiff remained absent for 20 years without any expression of interest in the property until he found himself in financial difficulties. Dr. Parker was red with anger. His reputation as an unbeatable lawyer was being destroyed by a teenager in a courtroom. "Your Honor," he tried once more, "I ask for reconsideration." "Dr. Parker," said the judge in a firm tone, "your arguments have been adequately refuted by the defense. Young Ethan has demonstrated impressive legal knowledge and presented compelling evidence." Margaret held her nephew's hand, trying to control the tears of relief forming in her eyes. But Ethan knew he needed to deliver the final blow. Dr. Parker was known for appealing every unfavorable decision, and that could prolong his aunt's suffering for years. "Your Honor," said Ethan, "I'd like to make one final observation." "Proceed," said the judge. Ethan addressed Dr. Parker directly. "Doctor, you earned your reputation defending just causes and protecting legitimate rights. But today, you're here trying to take away the home of a hard-working woman to help a man who abandoned his family and now returns only for financial interest. Does this truly represent the values that made you famous?" The lawyer remained silent for a few seconds. Ethan had touched on something no legal argument could reach: his conscience. "My client," began Dr. Parker, but his voice sounded unconvincing. "Your client lied," said Ethan, now more firmly. "He said he always wanted to come back, but he signed documents waiving his rights in the United States. He said my aunt never contributed financially, but she paid off the house by herself. He said he has moral rights to the property, but he abandoned the family when they needed him most." Charles tried to defend himself. "I had my businesses, my life. I couldn't just—" "You couldn't help your sister when she cared for your sick parents alone?" asked Ethan. "Couldn't you at least call on birthdays or Christmas? My aunt kept your photos in the living room for years, hoping you'd return. She only took them down when I was born and needed the room." The silence in the room was absolute. Even Dr. Parker seemed shaken by the revelation. Ethan continued, now speaking directly to his uncle. "Do you know the first thing my aunt taught me when I arrived at this house at 7 years old? She showed me a picture of you and said, 'This is your Uncle Charles. He's far away, but one day he'll come home.' I asked why he had left, and she answered, 'Sometimes people need to follow their dreams, Ethan. We can't judge them for that.'" Charles lowered his eyes, unable to face his nephew. "For 20 years she defended your choices to the whole family. When the cousins spoke ill of you, she asked them to stop. When the neighbors asked why you never visited, she made up excuses. She protected your image even when you had completely forgotten her." Ethan's voice grew quieter, but each word echoed in the room. "And now you come back not to apologize, not to rebuild the family, but to take from her the only thing she has left. You're not claiming a house, Mr. Charles. You're trying to steal a home." Margaret could no longer hold back her tears. 20 years of hurt and disappointment with her brother came to the surface at that moment. "Doctor." Parker looked at his client and then at Ethan. For the first time in decades, he found himself questioning if he was on the right side of a case. "Ethan," he said, his voice lower than usual, "you made an impressive presentation. I admit I underestimated the situation." "Dr. Parker," Ethan replied respectfully, "you are a brilliant lawyer. I've studied your most famous cases. You've always fought for justice. The question that remains is, where is the justice in this case?" The lawyer fell silent for a long moment. His career had been built on courtroom victories, but this would be a victory that left a bitter taste. Charles realized he was losing not just the case, but also the support of his own attorney. "Richard," he said, "you can't give up now. I'm paying a fortune to—" "Charles," Dr. Parker interrupted him, "perhaps it's time we reconsider our position." "Reconsider? I need this house. You don't understand. My debts." The confession slipped out before he could control himself. The whole room heard his true motivation. Ethan seized the moment. "Your Honor, I believe it has become clear that this lawsuit is not aimed at fair compensation or a legitimate right. It is a desperate attempt to resolve personal financial problems at the expense of a family that has already suffered enough. The judge banged the gavel. It is decided. The case is dismissed. The defendant retains full rights to the property, recognizing her qualified and good faith possession for over 20 years. Margaret hugged Ethan tightly, her tears now of relief and pride. Dr. Parker approached them before leaving the room. "Ethan," he said, "I've rarely seen such a well-prepared defense. You have a bright future in law, if you choose to follow this path." "Thank you, Doctor," replied Ethan, "but I hope I never have to face you again as an opponent." "Doctor," Parker smiled for the first time that day. "If we face off, I'll be better prepared," he said, extending his hand to greet the boy. As they left the courthouse, Margaret still couldn't believe what had happened. "Ethan, how did you manage to find out all that about your uncle?" "Aunt, when I found out he was trying to take our house, I decided to investigate. I spent weeks at the library, researching online, calling public agencies. I learned that official information is public. You just need to know where to look." "But what about that document from the consulate?" Ethan smiled. "Remember when you said Uncle Charles was always very proud of his overseas business? I thought he might have done something to get tax advantages there. Consulates keep records of important documents signed by Americans." Margaret shook her head, impressed. "And where did you get the courage to face Dr. Parker? He's one of the most famous lawyers in the city." "Aunt, you taught me that the truth always wins in the end. I just organized the truth so everyone could understand it." They walked in silence for a few minutes, absorbing what had happened. "Ethan," said Margaret, "I know you've always been special, but today you saved me." "No, Aunt, you saved me first. When my parents passed away, you gave me a home. Today I just returned the favor." They stopped in front of the courthouse, watching the city's movement. "What do you want to do when you grow up, Ethan?" Margaret asked. "I want to help people like us, Aunt. People who need someone to defend them when they think they don't have a chance." Margaret smiled, knowing her nephew would find his way in life. "And if Uncle Charles tries again?" "He won't," Ethan said confidently. "Dr. Parker is too smart to take a losing case twice. And now everyone knows the truth about Uncle Charles's motives." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now, continuing. The following week, Ethan returned to his school routine, but something had changed. The news about what happened in court spread through the neighborhood and soon reached the school. During recess, his classmates surrounded him, curious about what had happened. "Ethan, is it true that you defeated a famous lawyer?" asked Madison, a classmate. "I didn't defeat anyone," Ethan replied. "I just presented facts that proved my aunt was right." "But how did you know so much about laws?" insisted another classmate. Ethan explained about his afternoons at the library, studying books that most people would consider boring. His classmates were impressed, but also began to see him differently. A few days later, his English teacher, Ms. Helen, asked to speak with Ethan after class. "Ethan, I heard about what happened with your family. I wanted to congratulate you on your courage and intelligence." "Thank you, teacher. But I also wanted to talk about your future. Have you ever thought about participating in the writing and math Olympiads? With your argumentation and research skills, you could get a scholarship to a good university." Ethan had never thought about it seriously. He always assumed he would study at a public university if he could pass the entrance exam. "I don't know if I'd be capable, teacher. Ethan, you just faced one of the best lawyers in the city and won. I'm sure you can do anything you decide to do." That night, Ethan talked with Margaret about the teacher's suggestion. "Aunt, do you think I should try these Olympiads? Ethan, you surprise me every day. If you want to try, I'll support you. But what if I don't succeed? What if I find out I'm not as smart as people think?" Margaret sat next to her nephew on the living room sofa. "Ethan, intelligence isn't just about knowing many things. It's about knowing how to use what you know to help people, and you've already proven you have that. Do you really think I could do it?" "I'm sure of it. But even if you couldn't, I'd be proud of you for trying." Ethan decided to sign up for the writing and math Olympiads. In the following months, He dedicated even more time to his studies, always with his aunt's support. During this period, something unexpected happened. Dr. Parker showed up at their house on a Saturday afternoon. Margaret answered the door, surprised and a little worried. "Dr. Parker, what brings you here?" "Good afternoon, Mrs. Margaret. I'd like to speak with Ethan, if possible." Ethan appeared at the door, curious. "Dr. Parker, did something happen?" "No, Ethan. Actually, I came to make a proposal." They sat in the family's modest but cozy living room. "Ethan, I was impressed with your performance in court. I've rarely seen someone so young with such legal mastery and argumentative skills." "Thank you, Doctor. I want to make a proposal. How about doing an internship at my office? You could learn more about law and at the same time earn some money to help your family." Ethan looked at Margaret, who seemed as surprised as he was. "But I'm still in high school." "Exactly why. You'd have time to learn without the pressure of immediate results. And I can help you prepare for the law school entrance exam if that's what you want to pursue." "Why are you doing this?" asked Ethan, always suspicious of seemingly generous acts. Dr. Parker smiled. "Because you reminded me of myself when I was young. I also came from a simple family and had to fight for every opportunity. Someone gave me a chance when I needed it most. Now it's my turn to give back." "And what would my role be in the internship?" "Legal research, document organization, support on simple cases. Nothing you haven't shown you can do." Ethan thought for a few seconds. "Can I have some time to decide?" "Of course, but don't take too long. I have an interesting case coming up that would be perfect for your first experience." After Dr. Parker left, Ethan and Margaret talked about the proposal. "What do you think, Aunt?" "I think it's an amazing opportunity. But the decision is yours." "I don't know if I completely trust him. In court, he was trying to harm us." "Ethan, he was doing his job. Now he's recognizing your talent. They're different things." "What if it's a trap? What if he wants to use me to get information about our case?" Margaret thought for a moment. "The case is already over, Ethan. There's nothing more he can do, and you're smart enough to notice if someone is trying to trick you." Ethan decided to accept the proposal, but cautiously. He arranged to start the internship 2 afternoons a week after school. On his first day at Dr. Parker's office, Ethan was impressed. The place was elegant and modern, with shelves full of law books and a team of lawyers and secretaries working efficiently. Dr. Parker introduced him to the whole team. "This is Ethan Johnson, our new intern. He's young but has a brilliant mind for law. I hope everyone treats him with respect and helps him learn." Miss Fiona, a young lawyer who worked at the office, was assigned to supervise Ethan. "Ethan, I'll be honest with you," she said. "When Dr. Parker said he was hiring a 15-year-old intern, I thought it was crazy. But then he told me about what happened in court. I became curious to meet you. I hope I don't disappoint you. On the contrary, I hope to learn a few things from you. Shall we begin?" The first few days were challenging. Ethan had to learn how to use the office computer system, understand how cases were organized, and get familiar with the internal procedures. But it soon became clear that he had a natural talent for legal research. He could find precedents and information that even experienced lawyers sometimes missed. 2 weeks after starting the internship, Dr. Parker called Ethan to talk. "How are you adjusting?" "Well, Doctor, I'm learning a lot." "Miss Fiona said you found an important precedent for the Carter brothers case. Is that true?" Ethan explained how he had discovered a similar case tried years earlier by the same court, which could be used as a basis for the defense. "Impressive," said Dr. Parker. "This precedent could completely change our strategy." "May I ask a question, Doctor?" "Of course." "Why did you choose to represent the Carter brothers? They don't seem to have much money." Dr. Parker smiled. "Ethan, not all the cases I take are for the fees. Sometimes I take cases because I believe justice needs to be done. The Carter brothers are being sued unfairly by a company that wants to buy the land where they've had their auto repair shop for 30 years. Like our case? Exactly. Sometimes the law isn't on the side of the one with more money." Ethan began to see Dr. Parker in a new light. The man he had faced in court was showing a different, more human side. A few days later, something unexpected happened. Charles showed up at the office. Ethan was organizing documents when he saw him at the reception arguing with the secretary. "I need to speak with Dr. Parker. It's urgent." Ethan approached. "Uncle Charles? What are you doing here?" Charles turned around, surprised to see his nephew. "Ethan, you work here?" "I'm an intern. What do you want with Dr. Parker?" "I need help. Things aren't going well for me." Dr. Parker appeared, drawn by the argument. "Mr. Charles, what brings you here?" "Doctor, I know things didn't end well between us, but I need your help. My creditors are pressuring me and—" "Mr. Charles," Dr. Parker interrupted him, "after what happened, I can't represent you. It would be a conflict of interest." "But doctor, I can pay. I have other properties I can use as collateral." Ethan watched the scene with a mix of pity and anger. The uncle who had tried to take their house was now desperate, begging for help. "Uncle Charles," said Ethan, "maybe it's better if you look for another lawyer." "Ethan, can you help me? Talk to Dr. Parker for me." "Why would I do that?" Charles lowered his eyes. Because we're family." The answer angered Ethan. "Family? You only remembered we're family now that you need help?" "Ethan, I know I made mistakes." "Mistakes? You tried to take our house. You made my aunt cry for weeks." Dr. Parker watched the discussion in silence, interested to see how Ethan would handle the situation. "Uncle, do you want a second chance?" asked Ethan. "Yes, of course I do. Then it'll have to be the right way, not with expensive lawyers and lawsuits. You'll have to talk to Aunt Margaret and apologize sincerely." "But my debts—" "Your debts are problems you created. You can't solve them by hurting other people." Charles was silent for a few seconds. "You're right," he said finally. "I need to talk to Margaret. If you do that sincerely, maybe she'll forgive you. My aunt has a big heart." "And you? Would you forgive me?" Ethan thought before answering. "Uncle, forgiveness isn't something you get. It's something you build with actions. If you show you've changed, maybe one day we can be a real family." Charles left the office with a thoughtful expression. Dr. Parker approached Ethan. "You handled the situation very well. I hope I did the right thing. Ethan, can I give you some advice? In law, sometimes the most important victory isn't in the courtroom. It's when we manage to make people understand what's right." That night, Ethan told Margaret about the meeting with Charles. "He seemed remorseful, Aunt. Maybe he's sincere this time." "Ethan, you did well not to make things easy for him. If he truly wants to redeem himself, he needs to earn it. Would you forgive him if he came here to apologize?" Margaret sighed. "Ethan, your uncle is my brother. No matter what he's done, there will always be a place for him in my life. But I can't simply forget the pain he caused. What if he's truly remorseful? Then we'll talk. But it will take time to rebuild trust." 2 weeks later, Charles showed up at the house door. He looked different, more humble, without the expensive suits from before. Margaret answered the door, Ethan by her side. "Margaret," said Charles, "I came to apologize, for real this time." She invited him inside. They sat in the living room, the atmosphere tense. "Charles, why now?" asked Margaret. "Because I finally understood how wrong I was. Not just now, but all these years." He took a deep breath before continuing. "Margaret, I was a coward. When our parents got sick, I ran away because I didn't want to deal with the responsibility. I left everything to you because I knew you're stronger than me. You could have helped even from afar. I know. But I was so focused on building my life abroad that I forgot about the family I left here. And when things started going wrong for me, the first thing I thought was to come back and take what I thought was rightfully mine." Ethan listened silently, watching his aunt's expressions. "Charles," said Margaret, "you hurt me deeply, not just now, but during all these years of silence. I know, and I know I can't undo what I did. But I want to try to make things right if you'll let me." "How?" "First, I want to officially renounce any rights to the house. It's rightfully yours, and I never should have tried to take it from you." Margaret was surprised. She hadn't expected that. "Second, I want to really get to know my nephew. Ethan is an amazing young man, and I missed all the important years of his life. Ethan shifted uncomfortably in his chair. And third, I want to try to be the brother I should have been from the start. Margaret looked at Ethan, seeking his opinion. What do you think? She asked. I think everyone deserves a second chance, replied Ethan, but it will have to be slow. Charles nodded. I understand completely. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately. I just want the opportunity to prove I can change. Margaret thought for a few minutes. All right, Charles, we'll try, but this time it will be different. No empty promises or disappearing acts. If you want to be part of this family, you'll have to be present. I understand. And Ethan has to agree with everything. He's an important part of this decision. Ethan looked at his uncle. Uncle Charles, I don't trust you yet, but my aunt taught me that family is important. If you show you've really changed, I'll try too. Charles nodded, visibly moved. Thank you. I promise you won't regret it. Don't promise, said Ethan. Just do it. In the following months, Charles started visiting the house on weekends. He helped Margaret in the garden, talked with Ethan about his studies, and slowly regained his place in the family. It wasn't easy. There were moments of tension, especially when Charles tried to give input about household decisions or Ethan's education. But gradually, he learned to respect the space Margaret had built. Ethan began to see a different side of his uncle. She discovered that Charles was intelligent and had interesting experiences from his years abroad. Slowly, a relationship of mutual respect was forming. One day, Charles appeared with a proposal. Margaret, Ethan, I have an idea. What is it? Asked Margaret. I sold my apartment in New York City and paid off my debts. With the money left over, I thought about opening a small business here in Yonkers, a consulting firm for small businesses. And what does that have to do with us? Asked Ethan. I'd like you to be my partners, not financially but as family. And Ethan, if you want, you can learn about business management while in high school. Ethan and Margaret exchanged glances. Why do you want our involvement? Asked Margaret. Because I've learned that I don't want to do anything alone anymore, and because you two are the smartest people I know. Ethan smiled. It was the first time he felt truly acknowledged by his uncle. Can I think about the proposal? Of course, there's no rush. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. Meanwhile, at Dr. Parker's office, Ethan continued to impress everyone with his research and analysis skills. Miss Fiona had become his mentor, teaching him the practical aspects of law. Ethan, she said one day, have you thought about which area of law you want to specialize in? I haven't decided yet. I like civil law, but I'm also interested in business law. Why business law? Because of my uncle's proposal. I think understanding how businesses work legally could be useful. Good idea. What about public law? You've shown a lot of interest in social issues. Ethan considered the suggestion. Maybe. I'd like to help people who don't have the means to hire expensive lawyers. Like a public defender's office. Something like that. Or maybe a law firm that takes pro bono cases. Miss Fiona smiled. Did you know Dr. Parker does exactly that? Half of his cases are pro bono. Ethan was surprised. He didn't know that about his boss. Is that true? Ask him yourself. That day, Ethan took the opportunity to talk with Dr. Parker. Doctor, is it true that you take many free cases? Who told you that? Ms. Fiona. Dr. Parker laughed. She talks too much. But yes, it's true. I believe that those who have knowledge have an obligation to help those who don't. Is that why you gave me this opportunity? Partly, but also because you have the potential to be an excellent lawyer. Dr. Parker, can I ask a personal question? Of course. Do you regret losing our case? Dr. Parker thought before answering. Ethan, losing that case was one of the best things that happened to me in recent years. How so? Because it reminded me why I became a lawyer. When I was young, I wanted to make a difference, to help people. Over time, I started taking only profitable cases and forgot my original motivation. And now? Now I have an intern who reminds me every day what's really important in law. Ethan smiled. He was learning that people are more complex than they initially seem. A few weeks later, the results of the writing and math competitions arrived. Ethan had qualified for the state level in both. "Aunt," he shouted, arriving home with the results. "I did it." Margaret hugged him, proud. "I knew you could do it." Charles, who was helping in the garden, approached. "Congratulations, Ethan. That's amazing." "Thank you, Uncle." "Do you know what this means?" asked Margaret. "That I'm going to the next round. It means you could get a scholarship to a good university. Your future is opening up, Ethan." That night, the family celebrated with a special dinner. Charles had bought a cake from the bakery, and they talked about Ethan's future plans. "Ethan," said Charles, "whatever you decide to do, I'll be here to support you." "Thank you, Uncle. That means a lot to me." "What about the business proposal? Have you thought about it?" Ethan looked at Margaret. "Aunt, what do you think?" "I think it would be a good experience, but only if it doesn't interfere with your studies." "It would only be on weekends," said Charles, "and Ethan could learn about entrepreneurship hands-on." Ethan decided to accept. The proposal would be a way to learn something new and also strengthen his bond with his uncle. The following month, they opened the small consultancy in a modest commercial space in downtown Yonkers. Ethan helped with research and organizing documents on weekends. Their first client was Mrs. Rose, a 70-year-old woman who was having problems with the documentation for her small candy shop. "Mrs. Rose," explained Charles, "will review all your documentation and get everything in order." Ethan watched how his uncle handled the elderly client, being patient and explaining everything in simple language. "Charles," said Mrs. Rose, "you're very thoughtful. It's hard to find people like that these days." "Mrs. Rose, my experience has taught me that treating people well is the foundation of any successful business." Ethan was impressed. His uncle really seemed to have changed. During the following weeks, more clients appeared. Small business owners, service providers, ordinary people who needed help with bureaucratic matters. Ethan began to realize he was learning things in his uncle's business that he wasn't learning at Dr. Parker's office. He was seeing how laws affected ordinary people in their daily activities. One day, an unexpected situation tested the new family dynamic. A city inspector appeared, questioning the consultancy's documentation. "Do you have a permit to operate here?" the man asked. Charles became nervous. They had applied for the permit, but it hadn't arrived yet. "Sir," said Ethan, approaching, "can we resolve this amicably?" The inspector looked at the boy, surprised. "Do you work here, kid?" "I help my uncle on weekends. About the permit, can I show you the application receipt?" Ethan showed the documents proving the process was underway. "See," he explained, "we applied for the permit 3 weeks ago. According to municipal law, we have the right to operate temporarily until the process is completed, as long as all other requirements are met." The inspector examined the papers. "You understand municipal legislation?" "A little. I study law on weekends." "Interesting. The documents are correct, but I want to see the situation regularized in 2 weeks." "No problem," said Ethan. "I can go to City Hall tomorrow to check on the progress of the process." After the inspector left, Charles looked at Ethan with admiration. "How did you know about that law?" "I read about it when we were preparing the documentation. I thought it was important to understand our rights and obligations." "Ethan, you saved me. If it weren't for you, they could have closed the consultancy." "Uncle, that's how a family works. We help each other." Charles nodded, moved. He was beginning to understand what he had missed during all those years of absence. That night, Margaret spoke with Ethan about the day. "I'm proud of you, Ethan, not just for the knowledge you showed, but for how you helped your uncle. He's really trying to change, Aunt. I think he deserves our chance." "I think so, too. And you're maturing very quickly. Sometimes I worry if you're not missing your childhood." Ethan smiled. "Aunt, I never had a normal childhood anyway. Since I was little, I've always been different. Now at least I'm using that difference for something good. But I want you to be happy, Ethan. May you have friends. May you have fun." "I am happy, Aunt. My happiness isn't like that of other boys my age, but it's real." Margaret hugged him, understanding that her nephew had found his own path in life. A few weeks later, news arrived that would change everything. Ethan had been selected for the national phase of the Math Olympics. The news came by phone while he was at the consulting firm with Charles. "Ethan," said the voice on the other end of the line. "This is the Math Olympics organization. I have good news." Ethan listened to the explanation with growing excitement. Not only had he qualified, but he had placed among the top 10 in the state. "Uncle," he said, hanging up the phone, "I've been selected for the national phase." Charles dropped everything he was doing and hugged his nephew. "Ethan, this is amazing. Do you know what this means? That I'll compete with the best students in the country? It means you have a real chance to get a full scholarship to one of the best universities in the United States." They rushed home to tell Margaret the news. She cried with joy when she found out. "My boy," she said, "you're going so far." "I'm not going anywhere without you, Aunt. We're a family." "Ethan," said Charles, "I need to say something. If you get this scholarship and need to study in another city, I'll help with all the costs the scholarship doesn't cover." "Uncle, you don't have to." "Yes, I do. It's the least I can do after everything you've taught me about family." Ethan was moved. The uncle who had tried to take their home away was now offering to invest in his future. "Thank you, Uncle. But first I need to qualify." "You will," said Margaret. "I'm sure." Ethan spent the following weeks intensively preparing for the national competition. Dr. Parker excused him from the internship so he could focus on his studies, and Charles took over all responsibilities at the consulting firm. The family organized to support Ethan. Margaret prepared his favorite meals. Charles helped him with business logic questions that appeared on the tests, and Dr. Parker lent books from his personal library. 1 week before the competition, Ethan was nervous. "What if I don't make it?" he asked Margaret. "What if they find out I'm not as good as they think?" "Ethan," she said, "regardless of the outcome, you've already proven your worth. Not just in the Olympics, but in life. You saved our home, helped reconcile our family, and are building a bright future. But what if? There is no what if. You'll do the best you can, and that's all that matters." On the day of the competition, the whole family went to New York City to support Ethan. The test would be held at a prestigious university, with students from all over the country. Ethan looked around and saw young people who seemed very confident, some accompanied by private tutors and expensive equipment. "Aunt," he whispered, "I think I'm out of my league here." "Ethan," said Margaret, "you got here through your own effort. That's worth more than any advantage these other students might have." Charles approached. "Ethan, remember what happened in court. You were facing one of the best lawyers in the city, in a situation where you seemed to be at a disadvantage. And what happened? I won. You won because you were prepared, because you were right, and because you didn't back down. Today is the same thing." Ethan took a deep breath and entered the testing room. The competition lasted 4 hours. The questions were truly challenging, but Ethan realized his different approach to problem-solving helped him find creative solutions. When he left the test, he was exhausted but hopeful. "How was it?" asked Margaret anxiously. "Difficult, but I managed to solve most of the questions. Now we wait for the results." They returned to Yonkers and resumed their normal routine. Ethan went back to his internship at Dr. Parker's office and to weekend work at his uncle's consulting business. 2 weeks later, the phone rang again. Ethan answered, expecting it to be a client from the consulting firm. "Ethan Johnson?" asked the female voice on the other end. "Yes, speaking." "This is the Math Olympiad organization. I have the results of the national competition." Ethan's heart raced. "And?" "Congratulations. You placed 3rd in the national ranking." Ethan nearly dropped the phone. "3rd place?" "That's right. And this guarantees a full scholarship at one of the program's partner universities. Have you thought about where you'd like to study?" Ethan could hardly believe it. 3rd place among thousands of students from across the country. When he hung up, he shouted throughout the house, "Aunt! Uncle! I did it!" Margaret and Charles rushed to the living room. "What happened?" asked Margaret. 3rd place nationally, full scholarship, I did it." The house turned into a celebration. Margaret cried with joy. Charles couldn't stop hugging his nephew, and soon the neighbors showed up to congratulate him. Dr. Parker arrived minutes later bringing champagne to celebrate. "Ethan," he said, "you've achieved something most people only dream of. I'm very proud." "Thank you, Doctor, for everything. And now, have you thought about where you want to study?" Ethan looked at his family. I want to study at a university in New York City so I can keep living here. I don't want to be away from my family. Ethan, said Charles, you can study wherever you want. If it's in another city, we'll manage to visit you. No, Uncle. My place is here with you. I can study at an excellent university in New York City and still be part of this family. Margaret hugged him, moved. Are you sure? Absolutely. You are my foundation. Without you, none of this would make sense. In the following months, Ethan prepared for the entrance exam and chose to study law at Columbia University. His Olympiad score guaranteed him a spot, but he still needed to decide which path to follow. Ethan, asked Dr. Parker, have you decided whether you want to pursue civil, corporate, or public law? I think I want to do a bit of everything, replied Ethan. Civil law to help people like my aunt, corporate law to support my uncle in his consulting, and public law to work for social justice. Ambitious, I like that. Dr. Parker, can I make a proposal? What is it? When I graduate, I'd like to work at your firm, but with a focus on pro bono cases and social justice. Dr. Parker smiled. Ethan, I was hoping you'd make that proposal. The answer is yes, of course. On the day Ethan turned 16, the family organized a special party. The whole neighborhood was there, along with colleagues from Dr. Parker's office and clients from Charles's consulting business. During the party, Margaret asked for attention to make a speech. Ethan, she said, when you came to our home at 7 years old, you were a sad boy who had lost his parents. Today you are a brilliant young man who saved our family and built an incredible future. Let me finish. You taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about being present, supporting each other, fighting together. You did that when you defended us in court, when you helped your uncle redeem himself, when you chose to stay close to us, even when you had opportunities to go far away. Ethan was moved. I want you to know that I am the proudest aunt in the world, and I will always be here for you, no matter how far your intelligence takes you. Charles also wanted to speak. Ethan, when I came back to Yonkers, I was lost. I thought I knew what I wanted, but I was completely wrong. You taught me what really matters in life. He taught me that intelligence isn't just knowledge, but the wisdom to use that knowledge for good. Uncle, you gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. You taught me about forgiveness, about family, about doing the right thing even when it's hard. I'm a better man for having you in my life. Dr. Parker also wanted to speak up. Ethan, I've rarely seen someone so young with so much wisdom. You didn't just beat me in that courtroom. You taught me a lesson about justice that I had forgotten. I'm sure you'll be an exceptional lawyer. The party continued late into the night, with Ethan receiving congratulations and warm words from everyone present. When the house was empty and they were cleaning up, Margaret looked at Ethan. Are you happy? More than I ever imagined possible, Aunt. And you're not afraid of the future? Ethan looked around the simple house where he had grown up, saw the law books scattered on the table, the family photos on the wall, the garden that Margaret tended with such care. No, Aunt. I have you all. I have knowledge. I have purpose. How could I be afraid? And if things don't go as planned, then we'll improvise, together, like we always have. Margaret smiled. Her boy had become a wise man. Charles approached them. Ethan, can I ask you a question? Of course, Uncle. Have you truly forgiven me? Ethan thought before answering. Uncle, forgiveness isn't forgetting what happened. It's choosing to build something new despite what happened. You've shown that you've changed, that you value our family. That's all that matters now. Thank you, said Charles, visibly moved. But I want you to know one thing, Ethan continued. If I ever have children, I'll tell them about the uncle who made mistakes, but had the courage to fix them. That's the story that will remain. A few months later, Ethan began his university studies. He continued living at home, commuting by train every day. His mornings were dedicated to classes, his afternoons to his internship at Dr. Parker's office, and his weekends to his uncle's consulting business. It was a busy routine, but Ethan was happy. He felt he was building exactly the life he wanted. One day, a university professor called him for a talk. "Ethan, your professors are impressed with your performance. Have you thought about graduate school?" "I'm still in my first year, Professor." "I know. But it's good to start planning. With your grades and background, you could get a scholarship to study abroad." Ethan thought about the proposal. "Professor, it's an honor that you'd consider me for this. But my interest is working here in the United States, helping people in my community." "I understand, but you could study abroad and then return with more knowledge." "I'll think about the proposal. Thank you." That night, Ethan talked with his family about the professor's suggestion. "Ethan," said Margaret, "if it's a good opportunity, you should consider it." "But I said I didn't want to be away from you all." "Son," said Charles, "studying abroad would be temporary, and you'd return even better prepared to help people here." "Do you want me to go?" "We want you to do what's best for your future," said Margaret. "If you stay, we'll be happy. If you leave, we'll be proud." Ethan realized his family had grown along with him. They now had enough confidence to support whatever decision he made. "I'll think carefully before deciding," he said, "but it's good to know I have your support." At the end of his first year of college, Ethan received another surprise. Dr. Parker called him for an important conversation. "Ethan, I want to make you a proposal." "What is it, Doctor?" "I'd like you to become a junior partner at the firm when you graduate." Ethan was speechless. "Junior partner? You bring a different perspective to our work. Your pro bono cases have brought recognition to the firm, and honestly, you remind me why I became a lawyer." "Doctor, it's an honor, but..." "Think carefully before answering. Becoming a partner means responsibility, but also the autonomy to take on cases you believe in." Ethan knew it was an incredible opportunity. Becoming a partner at a respected firm in his early 20s was rare. "Can I give you an answer when I graduate?" "Of course. The offer will stand." That night, Ethan discussed the new proposal with his family. "Ethan," said Charles, "becoming a partner with Dr. Parker would be a huge step in your career." "I know, but it would also be a big responsibility." "Are you ready for that?" asked Margaret. "I think so. But I want to finish college first and be sure it's what I want." "Wise decision," said Charles. "There's no rush." Ethan spent the next few years of college preparing for the future. His grades remained excellent, his work at the firm improved, and his uncle's consulting business thrived. He also started tutoring underprivileged students in the area, sharing his knowledge with young people who, like him, couldn't afford a quality education. "Ethan," said one of his students, Madison, who was 15, "how did you learn so much?" "Madison, it's not that I learned so much. It's that I never stopped studying, and I always tried to use what I learned to help people." "But you're a genius." "I'm not a genius, Madison. I'm just someone who had good teachers and a family that supported me. If you work hard, you can achieve anything." Ethan truly believed that. His intelligence was a gift, but his success came from effort, family support, and the determination to use his talents for good. In his 4th year of college, something unexpected happened. Ethan received an invitation to participate in an exchange program with Harvard. The invitation arrived by email on a Friday afternoon. "Aunt," he shouted, "something amazing came." Margaret came running from the kitchen. "What is it?" "Harvard. They invited me to a 6-month exchange program." "Harvard? The American university?" "Yes, because of my grades and the work I've been doing with pro bono cases." Charles, who was organizing some papers from the consulting business, came over. "Ethan, that's fantastic. Harvard is one of the best universities in the world." "I know, but it's 6 months away." "Ethan," said Margaret, "this could be the opportunity of a lifetime." "But what about you and the firm and the consulting business?" "We'll be fine," said Charles, "and it's only 6 months. When you come back, you'll be even more prepared." Ethan was torn. The opportunity was incredible, but it meant being away from the family he loved so much. "Can I have some time to decide?" "Of course," said Margaret, "but don't let the fear of being apart stop you from accepting. You deserve this opportunity." Ethan spent days thinking about the decision. He spoke with Dr. Parker, who encouraged him to accept. He spoke with his professors, who said it would be a transformative experience. But the most important conversation was with Mrs. Rose. the first client of his uncle's consulting business. "Mrs. Rose," asked Ethan, "do you think I should go study in the United States?" "Ethan, you helped me get my life in order when I needed it most. If going to that place will help you learn more to help other people like me, then you should go." "But I'll be away from my family for 6 months." "Son, true family isn't separated by distance. True family celebrates your achievements, even if they're far away." Mrs. Rose's simple wisdom helped him make the decision. That evening, Ethan announced his choice to his family. "I'm going to accept the invitation." Margaret and Charles smiled. "We're so proud of you," said Margaret. "And we'll miss you every day," Charles added. "I'll miss you too, but I know this is the right thing to do." "When do you leave?" asked Margaret. "In 3 months. Enough time to get everything organized here and prepare myself." The 3 months passed quickly. Ethan arranged his absence from the office, prepared materials for his tutoring sessions to continue with other teachers, and helped Charles set up the consultancy to function without his help. Dr. Parker organized a farewell party at the office. "Ethan," he said to the whole team, "this young man has taught me more about law and justice in 3 years than I learned in decades of my career. I'm sure he'll represent the United States very well at Harvard." Ethan was moved. He felt he was leaving a family in the United States to explore the world. At the airport, when it was time to say goodbye, Margaret couldn't hold back her tears. "Ethan, we're going to miss you so much." "Aunt, it's only 6 months and I'll call every day." "Promise you'll take care of your health? Eat well? Get enough sleep?" Ethan smiled. Margaret was still the mother he never had. "I promise all of that, Aunt, and I promise I'll come back even better." Charles hugged him. "Ethan, make the most of this opportunity. Learn everything you can and remember you have a family waiting for you here. I'll never forget, Uncle. Thank you for coming back into our lives." "Thank you for giving me a second chance," replied Charles. Ethan boarded the plane to Boston with a heavy heart but full of expectations. The 6 months at Harvard were intense. Ethan studied with some of the best law professors in the world, participated in debates about social justice, met students from dozens of countries. But the most important thing was the perspectives he gained about his own country and his role as a future lawyer. In a class about human rights, the professor asked, "Mr. Johnson, how do you see the application of social justice in the United States?" "Professor," Ethan replied, "the United States has excellent laws, but still faces challenges in implementation. Many people don't know their rights or don't have access to quality justice. And what is your proposal to change that?" "I believe legal education is fundamental. Lawyers have the responsibility to teach people their rights, not just defend them when necessary." The answer impressed the professor and his classmates. During the 6 months, Ethan kept in daily contact with his family. The video calls were the best part of his day. "How are things there?" he would ask. "Everything's fine," Margaret replied. "The consultancy is growing. Dr. Parker is eager for you to come back, and Mrs. Rose always asks about you." "And how is Uncle?" "Charles is working hard. I think he wants to impress you when you return," said Margaret, laughing. Ethan missed them, but knew the experience was worth it. In his last month at Harvard, he received an unexpected offer. An international firm offered a paid internship in New York. The offer was tempting: high salary, international experience, global networking. Ethan thought for days before making a decision. In the last video call before returning to the United States, he told his family about the offer. "Ethan," said Charles, "it's an amazing opportunity. If you want to accept it, we'll understand." "And you, Aunt?" "What do you think?" Margaret thought before answering. "Ethan, you've always known what was best for you. I trust your decision." "Then I've decided. I'm coming home." "Are you sure?" asked Charles. "Absolutely. I learned a lot here, but my place is there with you, helping people in our community. That's what makes me happy." "We're looking forward to having you back," said Margaret, smiling. Ethan returned to the United States on a Tuesday morning. Margaret and Charles were at the airport waiting. When they saw him coming out of the arrivals area, they ran to hug him. "You've gotten so much taller," said Margaret, "and more mature." "I missed you all every day," said Ethan. Home is where the family is. On the way to Yonkers, Ethan talked about his experiences, the people he met, the things he learned. And the offer from New York? Asked Charles. I turned it down. I want to build my career here, helping people like us. No regrets? Never. I learned that success isn't about how much money you make or how far you go. It's about how much good you do for the people around you. When they got home, Ethan looked at the small garden, the simple house, the backyard where he played as a child. It's good to be home, he said. The next day, Ethan went to Dr. Parker's office. The whole team welcomed him with a celebration. Ethan, said Dr. Parker, how was Harvard? Amazing, Doctor. I learned a lot, but I also discovered that what we want to do here is as important as anything I saw there. And are you ready to be a junior partner? Ethan smiled. I'm ready. In the following months, Ethan graduated with honors from the university and officially became a junior partner at Dr. Parker's firm. His first decision was to create a free legal assistance program for the Yonkers community. Dr. Parker, he said, I want to dedicate half of my time to pro bono cases. That could affect your earnings. Doctor, remember what you taught me. Those who have knowledge have an obligation to help those who don't. That's what I want to do. Dr. Parker smiled. Then that's what we'll do. The program was a success. Ethan handled cases for ordinary people, helping with labor, family, and consumer issues. Mrs. Rose was one of the first to seek the service. Ethan, she said, my grandson is having trouble at school. They say he's too hyper and want to expel him. We'll fix this, Mrs. Rose. No child should be excluded from education. Ethan investigated the case and found that the boy had attention deficit but wasn't getting proper support at school. In a meeting with the school administration, he presented the situation. Under the Child and Adolescent Protection Act, every child has the right to an education adapted to their needs. Instead of expelling the student, the school should seek appropriate teaching methods. But we don't have the resources for that, argued the principal. Then let's find those resources. I can help the school access government programs for inclusive education support. The case was resolved without going to court. The boy received the necessary support and continued studying. Ethan, said Mrs. Rose, you didn't just save my grandson. You saved his future. Mrs. Rose, that's why I studied. To make a difference in the lives of people like you. Ethan's reputation as a lawyer committed to social justice spread throughout the region. Soon he was handling cases from various neighboring towns. Margaret watched her nephew's success with pride. Ethan, you're becoming exactly the man I hoped you'd be. Aunt, everything I am I learned from you. The importance of family, honesty, helping others. And your Uncle Charles, how is your relationship with him? Ethan looked out the window, where he saw Charles tending the garden. Uncle Charles has truly become part of the family. He showed that people can change when they have motivation and support. Have you completely forgiven him? More than that, Aunt. I learned that forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past. It's about building a better future with the lessons the past taught us. 5 years after graduating, Ethan had become one of the most respected lawyers in the region. His firm served everyone from large corporations to people in need. One Friday afternoon, he was organizing papers when he received an unexpected call. Ethan Johnson? Asked the voice on the other end. Yes, it's me. This is the American Bar Association calling. We'd like to invite you to an important meeting. Ethan was curious. What would the ABA want with him? What would the meeting be about? We're forming a national commission to expand access to justice. Your work has caught our attention. Ethan couldn't believe it. His local work had reached the attention of the national legal authorities. It would be an honor to participate. At the meeting in Washington, D.C., Ethan met some of the most influential lawyers in the country. Everyone was impressed with his methods of democratizing access to justice. Dr. Ethan, said the ABA president, your model of free legal assistance integrated with legal education is innovative. We'd like to implement it nationwide. Mr. President, that would be fantastic, but I want to ensure the focus remains on those who need it most. That's exactly why we chose you to lead the project. Ethan returned home with an incredible proposal to lead a national program that would bring free legal assistance to the entire country. That evening, he talked with his family about the opportunity. "Ethan," said Margaret, "this means your work will help millions of people." "Yes, but it also means much more responsibility and perhaps less time at home." "Son," said Charles, "you have the gift of helping people. If you can extend that gift to the entire country, you should do it. Would you support me?" "Always," said Margaret. "You learned from our family. Now it's time to share those lessons with the United States." Ethan accepted leading the national program. In the following years, he created a network of free legal assistance offices in every state capital. The model he developed combined legal services with rights education, teaching basic citizenship issues and conflict mediation. "Dr. Ethan," said a reporter during an interview, "you've revolutionized access to justice in the United States. How did this begin?" "It began at home," Ethan answered, "with an aunt who taught me about family and an uncle who taught me about second chances. Everything I do is applying those values on a larger scale." "And what's your advice for young people who want to pursue legal careers?" "Study hard, but never forget who you're studying for. The law exists to serve society, not just to benefit a few privileged people." The interview was broadcast nationally, and Ethan received hundreds of messages from young people inspired by his story. In one of them, a 15-year-old girl from a small town wrote, "Dr. Ethan, I'm poor like you used to be, but I have good grades in school. Your legal education programs reached my town and inspired me to study law. Thank you for showing that it's possible." Ethan showed the message to Margaret. "And look at this. Look, it's happening exactly what we dreamed of. We're inspiring other young people to follow the same path. Ethan, you've planted seeds that will grow for generations." By age 30, Ethan had achieved everything he'd dreamed of. He had a successful career, national recognition, and was helping millions of people. But most importantly, he still lived in the same simple house in Yonkers with Margaret and Charles. "Ethan," Margaret asked on a Sunday afternoon, "don't you think about starting your own family? Dating, getting married, having children? Aunt, I have a family. You too. But it's not the same. For me it is. You gave me love, support, values. If I ever start a new family, it will be to expand this one, not to replace it." Ethan had indeed dated over the years, but never found someone who completely understood his dedication to family and social work. Until he met Amanda Carter. Amanda was a district attorney and worked with children's rights cases. They met during a conference on social justice. "Dr. Ethan," she said, introducing herself, "I really admire your work. I've been applying some of your methodologies at the district attorney's office." "Miss Amanda, it's a pleasure. Your work with at-risk children is also inspiring." They started talking about work, but soon discovered they had much in common. Amanda also came from a simple family and believed that the law should serve those most in need. "Amanda," Ethan asked during a dinner, "would you like to meet my family?" "Of course. It must be interesting to meet the people who shaped someone like you." Ethan took Amanda to have dinner at home. Margaret and Charles welcomed her warmly. "Amanda," said Margaret, "Ethan has told us a lot about you. Is it true you work with orphaned children?" "Yes, Miss Margaret. I handle adoption and child protection cases." "What beautiful work," said Charles. "Just like Ethan, you use your knowledge to protect those who need it most." During dinner, Amanda observed the family dynamic. She saw how Ethan treated Margaret with affection and respect, how Charles had found his place in the family, how everyone supported each other. "Ethan," she said afterward, "your family is special." "Why?" "Because I saw how you love each other. It's not just blood, it's choice, it's care, it's presence." Ethan smiled. Amanda had understood exactly what his family represented. In the following months, Amanda and Ethan began dating seriously. She became a regular visitor to the house in Yonkers, helping Margaret in the kitchen and talking with Charles about business. "Ethan," Margaret said one day, "Amanda is perfect for you." "Why do you think that?" "Because she understands your values, and more importantly, she shares them." 2 years later, Ethan proposed to Amanda. The ceremony was simple, at the neighborhood church with family and close friends. Dr. Parker was the best man, Margaret was the matron of honor, and Charles gave an emotional speech. "Ethan," he said, "when I came back to Yonkers trying to take your house, I never imagined that years later I'd be here celebrating your happiness as part of the family. You taught me that family isn't about properties or inheritances. It's about love and presence." Ethan and Amanda moved to a nearby house, but continued having dinner with Margaret and Charles every Sunday. "Aunt," said Ethan, "nothing will change between us." "I know, son. You've always been a man of your word." 1 year after the wedding, Amanda became pregnant. The news brought joy to the whole family. "Ethan," said Margaret, "I'm going to be a great-grandmother." "And I'm going to be a great-uncle," added Charles. Ethan was emotional. His family, which had started with him and Margaret, now included Charles, Amanda, and soon a baby. During the pregnancy, they talked about the child's future. "Amanda," said Ethan, "I want our child to grow up with the same values I learned here." "What values?" "Family, honesty, helping others. I want him to know he had grandparents who fought for justice and a great-grandmother who dedicated her life to caring for those she loved." "What if it's a girl?" "The values are the same," Ethan laughed. The baby was born on a sunny spring afternoon. It was a girl, whom they named Hope, in honor of what Margaret had represented in Ethan's life. "Look, Hope," said Ethan, holding his daughter for the first time, "this is your great-grandmother Margaret, who taught me about unconditional love, and this is your great-grandfather Charles, who taught me about second chances." Margaret, now 70 years old, cried as she held her great-granddaughter. "Ethan, she's perfect. She'll grow up surrounded by love, like I did." Charles, now with completely grey hair, was also emotional. "Ethan, thank you for letting me be part of this family. Uncle, you've always been part of this family. It just took some time to find your place." End of the story. So what did you think of this touching story about family, forgiveness, and the power of making a difference? Ethan showed that age doesn't define wisdom, and that knowledge should be used to help those most in need. If you were moved by this journey of overcoming and want to hear more stories that touch the heart, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and comment below which part stood out most to you. Your participation motivates us to keep bringing stories that inspire.